Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle Saga and I am the crafty chick behind Shells Beads. In today's video, we are going to be making this gorgeous doodle heart tumbler called Silhouette Heart. This is actually my signature glass bead design that I've had in my glass bead making for about the last 7 to 8 years. And for the last year, I've been experimenting with how I can translate that design and get it put onto a cup. I've had a lot of trial and error and found a lot of products that just don't work. But to get this really fine stringer detail like I do in glass, I was able to use a product called Spider Gel. This is a UV nail product, and I am so happy that I came across this during a Google search. And after a lot of trial and error, it is definitely what works. As always, I will have all of the products listed and linked in the description box below. So if you're ready to get started, let's go. To get started, you're going to want to take a fully prepped and sanded tumbler and make sure you have it base painted in a lighter color spray paint so that we can see the heart design. We're going to take less than 1 milliliter of epoxy, which is about a quarter size amount, and we are going to apply it with a gloved hand. This is basically the epoxy resin method, and even though we're not applying glitter to the whole cup, this is the best way to get glitter waterfall to kind of give the effect that we want. So once we have that epoxy on, we are going to take this gorgeous color called Shimmer from Chaos Glitter. I do apologize, at the time I filmed this color was out of stock, but she promises it will be in the next restock. To do our glitter waterfall, we want to concentrate our glitter on the very bottom edge of this cup, and this is where we're going to put the most amount of glitter. We don't want to add so much glitter all the way down because we want to have a trickle effect. We're going to keep our hand about 18 inches away from the cup as we do this and just allow it to slowly trickle down into the bottom quarter of the cup. I go ahead and do this in stages so that I can keep track of how much glitter I have falling. And before I move on to the top, I also take care of the bottom of the cup, and that I just kind of dump the glitter on it and then I am ready to go. You want to make sure that you are applying this very, very slowly. This is a slow process. This part of the video is not sped up at all because I really wanted to give you guys an idea of how slow you need to go. We're going to repeat that process on the top rim of the cup. I'm just concentrating the glitter really to that top quarter to half inch and then allowing the angle of the cup to let it slowly trickle down into the top quarter of the cup. You might notice that I'm going to be going back and forth between the top and the bottom to make sure that I have the glitter fall down as far into the middle part of the cup as I would like. These are just little tiny tweaks. I'm just kind of adding little bits and pieces here and there just to make sure I have a true waterfall-like effect. Once you have all of the glitter laid out the way that you would like, we are going to be moving into adding our first coats of epoxy. I add 2 to 3 coats of epoxy before I move on to our spider gel design, and I did not seal this cup ahead of time. One of the reasons I didn't do that is I'm okay if a couple pieces travel into the center area, but if you're really worried about keeping this center section completely glitter-free, I would recommend spraying the cup with either Krylon Triple Thick or Rustoleum 2 times matte clear or gloss. As you can see, I'm applying my resin using a method that was taught to me by Nicole Rowe of Front Row Designs. And basically I'm adding resin in sections. And that way I can kind of keep my glitter more confined to where I would like it to. This is much easier to watch than to explain. You're going to want to pop any bubbles that might be on the surface because we want a really nice, clean, smooth surface of epoxy. Once we have that done, if you see that some of your glitter has traveled into sections that you don't want, you can go ahead and take a stir stick or a silicone tool and move those back into their areas. Once all of your layers have cured, we're going to come into sanding this cup. To me, it's super important to have a very smooth cup in order to start this process. Another reason why I like to lightly sand all over the entire cup, even if we didn't have any sharp glitter, is it creates kind of a toothy surface that allows this next part of the project to really hold well. Almost like scuffing up the surface of a nail before you prep it for any kind of nail art. After we've done the body of the cup and the bottom and top rims, we're going to come in and make sure we have that nice stainless steel exposed at the top for all of our future layers of epoxy to adhere to. Now the fun begins. We're going to take this spider gel and we're going to be using the colors gold, white, and black. And this came in a pack that has, I think, 12 or 16 colors, and I will have it listed and linked in the description box below. As you can see, opening up the black here, you can really get an idea of the way this threading effect works. And part of it is just the composition of this product. It is a UV resin nail art product, so it's going to behave very similar to very, 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 very thick resin. To apply it to our tumbler, I'm going to be using these ball tools, and I was really looking for a type of tool that was going to allow me to gather up some product on the end of it and then be able to take it and manipulate it on the cup. So to achieve this, I'm going to dip my tool into the pot, and initially this is going to feel like it's going to go everywhere. However, trust me on this, this is definitely a leap of faith that you'll take, and we're just going to dip it and wind it. What we're doing is picking up that product and creating that gather. This gather is basically our base amount of product that we will be able to use to apply the heart. Once you have what seems like enough on the end, go ahead and touch down where you'd like to begin your heart and very slowly draw your product up into your basic heart design. If you're worried about being able to freehand a heart, you could always very, very lightly draw it out in pencil. I didn't think of to film this ahead of time. It's not something that I do, but if you were worried, you could do that. And the pencil is thin enough that it will get covered up by this product as you go along. As you can see, I keep dipping into the pot in order to pull enough product every time I run out. When you come to the puffs of the heart, one thing that I ended up doing that seemed to work really well because it's a curve is I went ahead and lightly touched down the tip of this ball tool to the actual cup and then dragged it over until I had the puffs of the heart. Basically, kind of like using it like a pen and ink to add the design. This was very hard to explain, so I hope you can see what I mean here. But basically the tip of that ball tool is touching the cup as I'm drawing out the puff of the heart. It's allowing the product to still thread like it does when you just lift it up in the air, but it's giving me the control of using a pen or pencil. Another technique is to go ahead and hold your cup by the cup chuck and actually physically use gravity to turn the cup and allow you to get that heart puff. That is actually the method I prefer to use, but to film this and keep the cup still so you could see what I was doing, I had to come up with an alternative method. I actually have used both now depending on how big or how many hearts that a client wants on the cup, so just experiment to find out what works best for you. I personally like to have this design translate to the back of the cup as well, or basically have it on both sides of the cup. To do this and get it as accurate as possible so you have it evenly spaced, I take a piece of painter's tape that I cut in half to a thinner piece and just eyeball it to the center of that heart. Then I come around to the back side of the tumbler and adhere a second piece of that tape roughly where that center line is going to be. Again, this is all eyeballing and there was no measuring involved. So this just helps me get that little extra bit. So in this clip, I am attempting to show you what I mean by using the movement of the cup to get your lines. I will also be showing you in the next clip how to fix a mistake if you get to this point and it just does not work out. So as you can see with this heart, there was a little bit thicker of a side. As I'm pulling it out of the pot, you can see where it threaded on a part of the cup that I don't want this design, and basically just kind of gave me fits and made me upset. It does happen, and I can't promise it won't happen to you. So I'd like to show you guys how to fix that. I come in with a silicone tool and my acetone, and I come right in and I kind of rub my silicone tool that's soaked with the acetone all over that area. Then I come in with a lint-free cloth like a coffee filter, dipped in a little bit of that same acetone, and I just come in and clean up any of those lines. On this, because I did have the surface sanded, you'll see a little bit of that come through. So just make sure to keep using a clean side of the cloth so that you don't smear it. And then clean up any residual with alcohol after you're finished cleaning up the design. Now we can come back in and fix that area that was giving us the problem. You want to make sure to clean your tools in between so that you don't contaminate your different pots. We are going to be working with black and white and also gold. So just take that same coffee filter or paper towel that's soaked with acetone to clean off the tip. Now we're going to get to one of my favorite parts, and that's adding these bands of threading around. In my beads, I do this with fine silver wire, but with this product, I was able to actually use it right out of the pot the way that most nail artists show, to kind of move back and forth along that circumference of the cup to get a beautiful fine line detail. We're going to come in and do this with all three colors that we have, and you can do this as artistically as you would like. I'm just using a nice straight method, and I'm trying to get lots of little threading so that I have a really fine detail effect. Now we're going to come in with our white. And I also wanted to mention that I did change the ball tools to the next size down because I wanted to pick up a little less product on the tip so that I had just that finer line. I don't want these lines around the circumference of the cup to be as thick as my heart lines because this really is an accent. So moving on to the white, you'll notice that some colors have a different viscosity than others. So just keep that in mind when you're adding. I wish that I had done a little heavier on the white for this because I think the contrast would have really been nice, but the white is a little bit more fluid than the black and the gold. I will have to say this is kind of funny because it's the exact same way in glass. White is definitely a more fluid color, so I had a little bit of a giggle at this. Go ahead and wipe off your ball tool, and we are going to move on to the final color. We're using this beautiful gold. It is a nice, rich, warm gold color, and it is the thickest of the colors that we are using on this cup. So what that means is when you're applying it, you might notice that your threads are a little bit thicker than with your white and your black. That's okay because being metallic, this is going to add a really, really nice highlight to the cup. And to be honest, I could go hog wild with this color and just add a ton of it. You're going to want to do this back and forth, rocking your cup. That was a good shot right there of just how the threading ends up looking out of the pot. And to be brutally honest, I love the way it looks right out of the pot. It's just sometimes difficult to translate that effect to the hearts. So that's why I use the drawing method using the gather on the end of the ball tool. But feel free to experiment and find what works best for you. After you've applied the amount of threading that you would like, we are ready to get this cup cured. I do this in sunlight because I found that curing under a UV lamp still maintains a slight tackiness. And I found that I got the hardest cure by leaving this out in the sunlight for about 25 minutes. Make sure to remove the tape before you put it outside because I find it also in the Florida sun melts the adhesive of the tape. Please excuse my videography skills. I was literally holding the camera in one hand and bringing my cup outside because this next step is literally going to the sunniest spot in your yard and placing it on a table or a hard surface so it can cure for 25 minutes. Now we're going to move on to adding the final bling to this cup, which is one of my favorite parts because I believe it really brings this design together and also really does mimic the way that I embellish my glass beads. To do this, I'm going to put a little bit of UV resin down on my parchment paper and dip my silicone tool in it and literally use it to kind of draw a line of the UV resin. Once I have it on the cup, I'm going to just take my fingers and pinch a little bit of glitter and sprinkle it on that line. I'm going to then take my silicone tool and just kind of make sure that I have the glitter where I want it. And from there, I'm going to move on and keep adding these small little patches of UV resin and sprinkle glitter over them until I've covered the whole circumference of the cup. Once you have all of that glitter placed where you would like, it's time to bring that cup back outside to your nice sunny spot and let it cure for 25 minutes. Alternatively, you could use a UV lamp, but like I stated before, it did keep this particular product just a little bit tacky. So moving on to our final coats of epoxy, this cup did take 3 final coats. One of the reasons for that is because after our first initial coats of epoxy, we did add quite a bit of dimension to this cup in the form of those spider gel lines and that glitter we placed using the UV gel. So if you're not too concerned about having that middle area perfectly smooth, you could get by with 2 coats because your top and bottom rims are perfectly smooth by that point. I just didn't want there to be any texture to the cup, so I wanted to make sure to add that 3rd coat of epoxy. Make sure to let your cup cure for 72 hours and then it's ready to use. Guys, I cannot tell you just how much this project has meant to me. One of my favorite things on this planet is being able to bridge the different art mediums that I work in and translate it into one or the other. Being able to take my design that I perfected in glass and put it onto a tumbler has been something that has really brought that creativity back out. I cannot tell you how much fun it was to think outside of the box and experiment with new products and try some things. I can honestly tell you that spider gel is a brand new addiction of mine, and you will be seeing it in a lot of future tutorials. I wanted to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me while I get new content available and bring it to you. This has really helped me to bloom this creativity and get out of my creative slump and get back to doing what I love, which is create amazing tutorials for you guys to help you fall back in love with tumbler making. So as always, please hit that like button, comment down below because I'd love to hear what you guys think. Hit that subscribe button because it really helps, and consider joining my Facebook group. I'm trying to be more active in there, so it would mean the world to me if you joined. As always, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you'd like to check out my last video, go ahead and click right here. And until next time, guys, stay creative.